Meghan Markle reveals she was unprotected by the palace as she and Prince Harry speak out about racism.
We have to, in this moment in time, say, we're going to have to be a little uncomfortable right now, because it's only in pushing through that discomfort that we get to the other side of this and find the place, as you're pointing out, where a high tide raises all ships.
Prince William and Duchess Kate step out for their first joint public outing in months as William sips a beer as pubs open across Europe.
How's everyone? Okay.
Thank you for coming.
Plus, authors Jessica Morgan and Heather Cox talk to us all about their new book.
If you've heard of this book, don't you send it to her as a joke? So I don't know that I think she's read it, but I feel like it's entirely possible that it was a gag gift somewhere along the line. And that makes me happy. I'm okay with being anybody's gag gift. That's fine.
We've got that plus so much more in today's Royally Us. Hello to our fellow royal lovers and welcome to Royally Us. I'm Christina, that's Carly, senior reporter for HuffPost and royal commentator. Hi, Carly.
Hi, Christina. We have so much to cover once again. Can't wait.
We actually have a ton of Harry and Meghan news to get to this week. I mean, we have a ton of Harry and Meghan news to get to every single week, but this week there's a lot.
Definitely.
So we're going to get to all of that in just a second, but of course we have to shout out you, our royal watchers, our royal viewers, who always keep the comments coming, and this week was no exception. So let's get started with Love Pities. Says, I used to love the royal family. I watched Diana get married and followed her stories. After she died, I lost a lot of interest with them. I'm glad the boys honor their mother, and I think Diana really helps change a lot of the way the royal family has become today. I couldn't agree more. I really think that she really kind of changed a lot of things in the way the royal family thinks.
I agree. And I think after Diana and before William and Kate got married, there was sort of a 10-year gap where, you know, it was like Charles and Camilla getting married, but there wasn't a lot of interest. The boys were young and at school. And I think from 2010, 2011 on to where we are now, I mean, the interest has only grown and I think really reached Diana levels again, where everybody is really royally obsessed.
Totally. And we actually have some news on Diana a little bit later in the show, so make sure you stay tuned. All right, next up is Prada Kid. Says, I think this new Diana movie needs to be an AAA+, and really capture Dee's essence, because this generation doesn't know who Diana, the People's Princess, was, only through media outlets and historical documentation. I am hoping that Kristen Stewart does a spectacular performance, and it's a great time frame. I agree. I mean, it's a lot of pressure to be put not only on Kristen, but the director, the entire production really needs to make this A+ performance.
A+. They definitely do. And I think, I mean, unfortunately, the Diana Broadway musical, you know, is going to be off the stage for the next year. But I think with The Crown coming up and its season focusing on Diana, this new Kristen Stewart movie, I feel like people really are going to get reacquainted with the Princess Diana that people really knew in the 80s and 90s and loved and learned so much about her.
Can't wait. All right, let's move on to our royal news of the week, our royal roundup. Like we said, we have a lot of Harry and Meghan news to get to. So let's kick it off with the two of them actually jumping on a Zoom call to talk about something that is really, really important, and that is racism. Take a look.
Guys, I'm aging, right? I'm 35 already, and
That's not aging.
it is aging compared to these guys. Look. But the optimism and the hope that we get is listening and speaking to people like you, because there is no turning back now, right? Everything is coming to a head. Solutions exist, and change is happening far quicker than it ever has done before.
So who exactly were Meghan speaking to in this video?
Harry and Meghan were speaking to the Queen's Commonwealth Trust, which is a group of which Harry is president, Meghan is vice president, and they were meeting with young people who are leaders from around the world.
Definitely. And so what did Meghan say about people being silent during this time?
Yeah, you know, Meghan has said previously in a speech that the only wrong thing to say right now is nothing, and her thoughts on this talk really echo that, where she said, people have finally woken up after the killing of George Floyd. So it's not that this hasn't always been happening, that people haven't died at the hands of the police. Finally, people, she said, are saying enough. We can't be a bystander. I can't sit by and let this happen. I have to do something. I have to speak out, which was really powerful.
Definitely. And, you know, and that's exactly what they're doing. They're speaking out and they're, you know, picking and choosing these right and poignant moments to really let their voices be heard. And, you know, and Harry is saying some really important things as well, right?
Harry is, because the royal family and the Commonwealth, which are 54 countries that belong to the Commonwealth, have a history, a colonial history that they have to reckon with. And as you know, racism and the Black Lives Matter movement is at the forefront of all of our minds right now. And if the royal family were to speak out on it, it would seem very hypocritical given their past. And Harry is acknowledging that we can't move forward. You know, they're speaking to the Queen's Commonwealth Trust. It's in the name. And he's saying some people have done a good job of acknowledging the past in order to move forward, and they need to do that more. So I think this is really the beginning of them saying, wow, there's this horrible, complicated colonial history that we have to acknowledge, reckon with, and figure out a path forward. So it'll be interesting to see what they say in the coming weeks and months.
Definitely. I did like, we saw it in the clip that they had the lighthearted moment where Harry says that, you know, at the age of 35, he's really old.
Right, and you know, Meghan is 38, turning 39. So not only is she like, hey, but
I would imagine there was a little bit of an argument after that, maybe.
I think so too. Yeah, I mean, given that the Queen is 94, Harry has a really long life ahead of him. So I would say he's definitely on the younger side still.
I would think so too. Well, Harry also kept busy this week. He spoke out about the importance of resilience during the AIDS 2020 conference. Take a look.
But for those who have been affected by HIV and AIDS, the examples of resilience within oneself and within the community has been felt and fostered for decades. At Centre Bali, we see the resilience of young people every single day, which is why I've been inspired each day since founding the non-profit organisation with Princesa of Lesotho in 2006.
So what exactly was this for? I know, you know, Harry has a long history of, you know, supporting people with AIDS, you know, speaking out about people with AIDS. Of course, Diana did as well. So what was this for?
Yeah, so Harry spoke at the AIDS 2020 conference, as you said, on behalf of his patronage Centibal, which he helped found and helped support young people, one of his biggest causes. And he spoke about resilience in this speech. He said resilience is something that in the past few months, people around the world have become, you know, more and more familiar with. And he said the people who are living with HIV and AIDS know the meaning of resilience and what it's like to keep going after you're diagnosed, and to not only do that, but to speak out, erase the stigma, and live a really, really full life. So this was just, once again, another great example of Prince Harry really also carrying on his mom's legacy, Princess Diana, because she was one of the first people to help erase the stigma of, you know, meeting people with AIDS and touching them and hugging them. So yeah, it was really wonderful to see him speak out.
It was, and I loved his background, very green. We got a little look at maybe their backyard.
Yes, we did. They are still at Tyler Perry's mansion right now, but I'm interested to see when they're going to make a decision and when they're going to put down roots of their own. But you know, we'll have to look at the real estate market and give everyone an update soon. We can pick up some properties.
I'm sure we could. Well, they also made some big news this week, you know, stepping a little bit further away from their royal life because they shut down their charity, Sussex Royal. So this was a big deal.
It was definitely a big deal. You know, when they stepped back in January, they directed everyone to the website for Sussex Royal. So it was thought that they were going to have the Sussex Royal Foundation, which was their original intention. In the terms of their step back, they could not use the word royal. So they had to shutter the charity. And Newsweek reported last week that they had finally finished the paperwork to really shut the charity down. So Sussex Royal is no more.
No more. I mean, now, you know, we've heard about rumblings about Archewell. We don't know exactly when that will launch. Of course, everything going on with coronavirus and, you know, the state of the world right now, it's kind of been put on the back burner. But have you heard any more rumblings of when we might see this charity launch?
Yeah, it seems like it will be soon. I would say within the next month or two. And we also, you know, we've seen them really refocus what Archewell was going to be. It was originally to help people with the pandemic. They were focusing their efforts on a lot of coronavirus and COVID-19 organizations and efforts. And now they've really refocused to focus on racial justice and fairness and the Black Lives Matter movement. We've seen a lot of movement within their patronages and charities. Prince Harry and the Invictus Games recently moved back the 2022 games to 2023. And then Meghan has a really exciting speaking engagement next week, right after they signed with this agency a few weeks ago. She will appear at the Girls Up conference alongside Michelle Obama and her friend Priyanka Chopra. So very exciting on those fronts.
Very, very exciting. We'll have to wait and see what she has to say there. I can't wait. Well, like we said, we still have a lot more news about Harry and Meghan to get to, and we will in just a minute. Of course, those big court documents where she said that she felt unprotected during her pregnancy. So we're going to break that all down. But first, let's check in with Kate and William, because they have also been busy. They did their first joint public appearance since the whole coronavirus crisis, and they're looking great.
They are. It's still really unsettling to see people out without masks or even them together. I think I'm like, oh my gosh, don't be so close to each other. But they stepped out for an afternoon tea last week at Queen Elizabeth Hospital, which is where William did his first engagement back. And they celebrated the 72nd birthday of the NHS and also got to meet with a lot of workers and talk to them about how they've been coping.
Yeah, a perfect first outing for the two of them. Did anything in particular stand out to them?
Yeah, when they were again thanking people for their resilience and their efforts, and some people who had retired in the medical community came back to fight, which was really incredible. And one person in particular stood out. She was a medic who was separated from her family for 9 weeks, and they were able to speak with her. She was separated from her two daughters. So I think that really stood out and showed just the sacrifices that some of our healthcare workers have had to make.
Definitely. And, William made a sacrifice. He took one for the team and went out and had a beer. All the pubs
right.
He had the really tough assignment this week that he went out and he, ordered a beer at a local pub. Do we know what he ordered?
Right, we do. He ordered a cider actually and chips, which I could not get a close enough look to see if that is our sort of chips. I don't think it is. I think chips means fries. So I believe fries and a cider. And 2 weeks ago, he went out to get a birthday cake and some pastries. So
living it up.
I know it's really been tough on him and his waistline so far, as he's joked about. So yeah, right. Not a tough assignment.
He has also gained the quarantine 15, I guess.
Yeah, him is all of us, definitely.
Yeah, he's just like us. Now, what did the owners say about getting to interact with William? What did we hear?
Yeah, the owners were really, really cute. This is a local pub for everyone where the royals are isolating at their home in Amner Hall. And they said that it was really, really nice to speak with them, and that William didn't only speak with them, he also spoke with the staff and wanted to see how everyone was doing and coping. So yeah, he made sure to speak with everyone there, not just the owners.
Yeah. Oh, lucky day out for everybody. Let's move on to the Duchess of Cornwall. She is proving once again that she really does have a bit of a sense of humor. I love this story. So she did an interview and covered a wide range of topics, from her husband to jeans to grandchildren. And she also compared him to an animal, right?
Oh yeah, this really stood out to me. I saw this headline and figured it was an Onion article or something, but she was talking about Prince Charles, who got coronavirus back in March, and she was saying he's like a mountain goat. He just walks miles and miles and leaves everyone behind in the dust. And it's just really funny to not only call your spouse a mountain goat, that's just very specific, but also to call the eventual King of England a mountain goat. That's a quote that we'll always remember.
I love that. She also talked about her wardrobe staples post-pandemic, right?
She did, yes. While most of us have been living in yoga pants, she said that she's enjoyed her casual wear of jeans, which honestly, I'm just excited to not be wearing jeans.
Right, I know. I'm like, I hope my jeans still button.
I know. I think jeans for her, like the lowest form that they would wear, like they would never wear sweatpants, but jeans. But she said that she's really loving this casual wear and she doesn't really want to give it up. And even for this particular interview, she was indeed wearing jeans with a blazer.
Also talked about her grandchildren and the worst part about not being able to hug them during this time.
Yeah, I think this is something we can all relate to. She said that after not seeing her grandchildren for 3.5 months, when she finally got to see them, everyone ran toward her and hugged her, and she said it was awkward. You kind of have to put your hands up, just to make sure that you're not infecting each other. And yeah, I think that's the hardest part right now, seeing people not being able to hug them. So that part was relatable. The jeans, not so much.
Not so much. All right, let's move right along. And it is time to spill the royalty. And like we said, we have to talk about this bombshell report about Meghan. You know, in court documents, it was revealed that she felt unprotected during her pregnancy when she was receiving so much negative press. It really kind of messed with her emotional state, her mental health. This is, I mean, there's so much to unravel here. So let's start out with who is involved in this lawsuit.
Yes, so American Newspapers Limited is involved in the lawsuit. They own the Daily Mail and the Mail on Sunday. The Duchess of Sussex is suing that company for publishing a private letter that she'd written to her father. And I was able to obtain the lawsuit, and really this was a response to some questions in the lawsuit. And it was really 40 to 50 pages of just getting to see how much Meghan was suffering at the time. She said that she had absolutely no idea that the letter that she wrote to her dad would ever be published. It spoke a lot about her friends visiting her and then realizing her deteriorating mental state while she was pregnant, that she tried to protect her dad from the tabloids and tried to stop him from speaking with them because she knew that they would twist his words. It just gave a lot of insight into what she was facing, and the quote that you said, that she felt, quote, unprotected by the institution, which I believe is a reference to the Kensington Palace communications team, not the royal family, but just the fact that she and the team would respond no comment to stories that they knew were untrue or true. They would not work to correct some of those false reports, even though they could, which is somewhat of an archaic media policy. It might have worked in the past, but now if you have the power to say that's a false story, that's something that would have helped her likely in this situation.
Definitely. And, she also said that she didn't know that friends were giving tell-all interviews. Some of her friends, like we said, were really worried about her during this time. It just seemed like she had nobody on her side, which is really hard for not only somebody that just married into this family, but is also pregnant.
Right. Isolating. And one of the biggest revelations in the court documents was she felt unprotected and like she couldn't fight back against, quote, hundreds of thousands of inaccurate articles about her, which really is just hard to comprehend, because I think if you are sitting in an office and a coworker says, oh, I heard that you said this to Jim, right, you would probably want to correct that. Sure. And if you see all of these stories circulating and you're pregnant and you have no power to say all of this is false, or you want someone else to speak out on your behalf, that would just be absolutely overwhelming.
Yeah, I'm ready for the tell-all, Meghan. Give it to me.
I know, August. We're close. Yeah.
We're so close. Now, as all this came out, Meghan's makeup artist, Daniel Martin, who of course did her makeup for her wedding, also spoke out, calling the royal family a one-way establishment. Take a look.
She resonated on so many levels, because here is someone who we all know, we all have a friend that looks like her, who's marrying into this establishment that was very one way, one perspective. And I feel like globally, she resonates on so many levels, not only because of how she looks, but who she is.
So this was a little surprising that, I mean, he said it and it was like a slight dig, but like he, kind of like glanced over it a little bit, but he doesn't usually speak out that often and isn't usually this forthcoming with information about Meghan.
Right. I think he did a really good job of defending Meghan, and also, getting in that slight dig, like you said, where it's sort of saying that the royal family doesn't change for anyone, no matter who you are, and you actually have to adapt and change to fit into the establishment. We haven't really heard friends on the record say something like that. That's just that strict.
Yeah. Well, I mean, but he did say a lot of wonderful things about Meghan and why she really resonates with people, right?
He said that she was, resonated with everyone around the globe, because he said we all have friends who look like her marrying into this one-way establishment. Meghan is a beautiful actress. So while I'm not personally friends with anyone in Hollywood, I know the sentiment he was trying to get across in that she's not a royal marrying a royal. She is a normal person, even though she's nowhere close to a normal person. Right. But it's sort of like if if one of our friends married the royal family, we would be shocked because she's an American.
Sure.
So she's, you know, we kind of feel like we can relate to her. But he also said that his friendship with her was really a big responsibility, because he said, I have to be as good as her if I'm going to be related to her in any way, as her friend. So that sort of seemed like he was alluding to the events of the past, you know, with Jessica Mulroney and the racially or racist things that she said to Sasha Exeter. So yeah, it seemed like he was very aware that he has to represent Meghan in a good light.
Totally, got to step up his game.
Mm-hmm.
Which she did. All right, let's break down the royal rules. We are super excited about this because we have authors Jessica Morgan and Heather Cox here. They just released their new book, The Heir Affair, and we are going to break it all down.
Thank you to Heather Cox and Jessica Morgan for joining us. I have their newest book, The Heir Affair, here with me, the sequel to Royal We. I brought both of them for my corner. And you guys have psychic abilities. In your first book, you predicted that an American would join the royal family. What was it like to see Meghan start dating Harry a year later and then later marry into the royal family?
It was definitely a bit of a pinch me moment where we were like, what? Like, do we have powers? Like, are we manifesting things into the world? And like, what else should we be working on right now that can change the course of history? I don't know. It was very, it was really quite thrilling. And I remember when we were writing the Royal We, you know, we made her an American because we thought, we weren't sure we could convincingly write the inner monologue of someone who had been born and raised in England. And we said, you know, are people going to not go on that journey with us? Is it going to be too crazy that we made her American? And like, I hope not, I hope it's okay. And then the fact that sort of life bore out later that in fact it was not too crazy, really, it felt validating of our logic, but also like it was, I still kind of, I didn't believe it. Like at first I was like, is he going to marry an American? Because lots of people in the Royal We seem to think it was never going to happen either.
Right. Do you guys have any other predictions that you want to make now or anything like that?
I think we are out of the prediction business. I feel like this is something we cannot control. It just happens. And I mean, I think if anyone in the world has learned anything about 2020, it's that you should never predict anything, because anything can happen.
Sure.
So, yeah, who knows what's going to happen next? I think we're all sort of excited to see what happens next.
If we had any lottery numbers kicking around in our heads, we would have used them by now, trust me.
Right. So let's talk about this book. When did you both start writing the second installment?
We started on the sequel right actually about when Harry and Meghan got married. Okay. We were thinking like around the wedding that it might be fun for us to write a Kindle single, like a short little piece about the Harry-ish character, Freddie, to come out around when the wedding was, when everyone was like very excited and there was a lot of royal fever. And we worked on that, and once we finished it, our agent read it and she was like, I mean, this is great, but why don't you just do a whole sequel? And lo and behold, we wrote a whole sequel. And the piece that we wrote to come out around the wedding, in fact, got thrown out the window and is not even in the book. So I think we just sort of had to get our like mojo back.
Yeah. And I was going to say, are there, I don't want to give anything away in the book, but are there any similarities between Meghan and any of the characters in the sequel?
You know, not really. I guess one of the things we wanted to do was to make sure that the book stood on its own more so than the Royal We did, because obviously the Royal We is based on Will and Kate, uses a lot of the tent poles from their relationships. But once we did all that world building, we were like, well, let's do a sequel that's really kind of its own beast. Like, we don't want to be hamstrung by current events, like in any way. We no matter who it was about, we were like, let's have our characters have their own transitions now. And so, you know, they're in the book, you know, Freddie does start to try to date more seriously and try to make better choices for himself. And so I guess you could say that some of the choices that he makes are sort of in the vein of, did I call him Harry, by the way? Sometimes I do that. Every so often I switch from Freddie to Harry, and it's happened for a long time. But I think talking about all of the similarities between the two books has tripped up my tongue. So in the book, Freddie is trying to make better choices, and we were like, well, in line with that, like Meghan kind of represents the good choices that Harry was trying to make for himself, in finding like a partner who brought so much to the table, And so I guess there's elements of that in his story, but there isn't a Meghan analog.
Yeah. What would you say to people that maybe wanted more of a Meghan storyline? I mean, was that even like in your thought process?
You know, we thought about it, and in the end, I think it's too big of a story for it to be secondary in the book. And we also felt really strongly that as two white ladies, it would be inappropriate for us to try to co-opt the story of a biracial woman marrying into the white institution of the royal family, because we can't bring the necessary lived-in experience to that, and it felt like that we'd be ripping that story from the fingers of somebody who could.
Right.
And one of the things that I really loved in the book is you really acknowledge the pressure on royal women to immediately produce an heir. And again, I don't want to give too much away, but why was it important that one of the main characters, Bex, struggled to get pregnant?
I mean, I think one of the reasons we talk about that is because it is such a strange phenomenon. I mean, I think it happens, I'm not married, but from my understanding, I think it happens to a lot of women when you get married, and like, as soon as you're married, the first question everybody asks is like, when are you going to have children? Even if maybe you don't want to have children, or you've been trying to have children and it doesn't work out. People are always very interested in other people's family choices, even when it's not really their business. But in the case of the royal family, you know, as we say in the book, Bex is faced with the reality that it is kind of like her one responsibility is to carry on the family to you know, create the next monarch, which is such a like weird, archaic thing for a person to have to deal with in the modern age, that I think we sort of wanted to explore what that pressure is like, but also like what would it be like if she struggled to do that one thing that was asked of her, and like if she felt ambivalence about that. And I just feel like it's a very rich topic, you know, in the royal sphere specifically, but also I think for women everywhere, there's a lot of pressure to be like, are you guys gonna have kids? Like, when are you gonna have babies? And I think there's a lot of like mixed feelings tied up in that, potentially on all sides, like regardless of whether you do want to have children. I think it's a complicated subject.
Do you think any of the royals have read the books?
Probably not.
No.
We would joke all the time that all we wanted was for like Meghan, or when, like before Meghan and Harry got married and she was still living in Toronto, we were like, could she just like dash out of the house with it taken from her? Or like have Kate leave.
And like read it.
Yeah, have Kate show up somewhere with it poking out of her purse. You know, I don't know. We don't have a publisher in the UK, so that they're actually like, they would have had to go to a lot of trouble to get it.
Right.
Yeah, but Megan's in LA now. She can just like drive. Well, she can't really.
Right.
I mean, we were also sort of like, if you're like one of Meghan's friends, and Meghan calls you up and is like, so I have this boyfriend, and it's Prince Harry. If you've heard of this book, don't you send it to her as a joke? So I don't know that I think she's read it, but I feel like it's entirely possible that it was a gag gift somewhere along the line. And that makes me happy. I'm okay with being anybody's gag gift. That's fine.
Definitely. And I mean, I know that the second one just came out, but are you thinking about a third?
Please.
Oh, thank you.
I feel like it's like with babies. Our bodies have to recover for a while first.
Yeah, we don't know. I mean, I think, you know, there was 5 years between this first one and this one. So we are never say never, but we kind of have to let it percolate, I think. I remember maybe in like 2017, I was talking to Heather and I said, we were kind of talking about doing a sequel just like generically. And I said to her, oh, well, what are we going to write about? The royal family is so boring right now. And like, lo and behold, that really took a turn. So who knows what's going to happen?
See, that's your powers at work again.
I know, I got to watch what I say.
Yeah.
Anything but boring.
I know. Well, thank you guys so much for joining us. This was
course.
one of my favorite reads ever. You guys, I love these books. And yeah, I can't wait to see this become a national bestseller. And thank you so much for joining us today.
Of course. Thank you so much for having us.
I am so excited to read this book. It sounds absolutely amazing.
It is so good. You will love it. I finished it in 2 days. I think it's about 500 pages, and I really didn't look up once.
Oh, perfect beach read. I can't wait. All right, let's move on to our royal history moment of the week. And it seems like the palace actually might make history in a bad way. We are hearing that there could be massive layoffs due to the coronavirus crisis. And this is not something that you definitely want to hear during these troubling times.
Right, the royal households, which consist of all of the palaces that the Queen has in the UK, basically because they haven't been able to have tourists come visit and pay to check out the palaces, they are in desperate need of money. They just took out a $22 million loan. And even as lockdown is easing up in London and around the UK, they are still facing absolutely severe losses.
Such a shame. I mean, they've, like so many businesses and so many companies, they have lost millions and millions of dollars, and right. The palace is not gonna take any of the effects of this as well. So it's unfortunate.
Yeah, I think they are predicting a loss of $37 million. So even if people are allowed into the palaces, there will be a severe price hike, or we could see layoffs in the next few weeks.
God, well, keeping everybody in our thoughts. Let's end it on a high note. Let's check in with these royal kiddos in our pint-sized palace. And this week, we're actually have some news on how Prince George's godmother is keeping Princess Diana's memory alive and making sure that he knows all about his amazing grandmother. Tell me all about this.
I absolutely love this story. Julia Samuels is Prince George's godmother, and she said that she is keeping the tradition alive that Diana started for her kids, which is where she buys the biggest present that she can find to sort of shock William, which I love.
Yeah.
And she said that it'll take him hours to put the present together for Prince George and have lots of flashing lights and noises. So basically the most annoying present ever, which is just really cute and seems like a very Diana thing to do, to give the kids exactly what they want and sort of torture the parents.
Oh my God. I hope they show us pictures of these presents, because I would like, good thing that they live in Kensington Palace and they have the room for these gigantic gifts.
They just put the toys in a certain wing of the palace, and then no one could hear it through the castle walls.
Totally. Well, I know that both Harry and William have spoken out and said that, she would have been such an amazing grandmother.
They have, and that's sort of what Julia echoed in her comments on this podcast, where she said, George is amazing, the kids are wonderful, and that's sort of what makes all of this so heartbreaking, is that, like you said, the kids have said she would just be a cheeky, naughty grandmother, just getting everyone into trouble. And Julia got emotional during the interview, saying that it's so hard to know that, and that she just misses her friend's laugh. She said she loved her laugh, and she was the best hugger. And this was, this article was really just such a bright spot and a reminder of how much Diana is missed by her family.
Totally. Well, hopefully, like we said in the beginning of the show, that they do her justice in this movie and kind of brings that infectious personality to life.
I hope so too.
Well, Carly, thank you so much, as always, for breaking down the royal news with me.
Absolutely loved it. Thank you so much, Christina.
Of course, and make sure for all of your royal needs, you head on over to usmagazine.com. Keep commenting, keep subscribing, and we'll see you guys next week.